Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my Season 4 review of Castlevania. It is also technically the series finale review as well. Also, I'm high in doing this review. I really enjoyed the season. I should probably note that that's all I had for my... I always like to have some random reference item to something that kind of relates, so fortunately enough I have a hat. And I was like, Monster Mash record. It's as weird as you think it is. It's literally weird horror noises from movies. It's a very weird album, but it's an amazing thing to have. So, Season 4. Castlevania was amazing. It was amazing. This whole series, I wish it could go on forever, but it was so good. Like, the animation is crazy. The action is crazy. The story is crazy. And this was a really good finale season. I think they did a really great job wrapping up all the stories, and it really lends to that appreciation. I always enjoyed season 3, but I think I felt the same as everyone else. It was very obvious. I was like, okay, after you kill Dracula, that's the end of an arc. That's an anime move. That's the end of the arc. It slows way down after that. You can't just be like, we kill Dracula and then you got to ramp up. So it's like, okay, this was that in between season where like it's almost like that time skip arc in an anime where it's like time skips, things are a little different. Characters like, oh, you get to readjust to this new version of characters. So we have, of course, our Belmont, he's out doing his thing. He's got his lady by his side, so Saphir's doing her thing. And we had an amazing season finale. And now we keep on with that. And it goes right into it. I think it was 10 weeks. And so it was like, or maybe it was like 6 weeks. So it was like 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, and so on. And I love that. It was cool. They fought skeletons. That was great. So, we see them going through the fights. We see them, just getting tired. It's like, last season ends like, we lived your life. We tried to do things your way, and now after the chaos of season 3, we're gonna live my life. So they did the demon hunting thing. Like, it's just chaos, and it's like, this is effing tiring. This just kind of sucks now. So they're doing that. Alucard is kind of doing his thing. He had to kill the crazy sex twins, and so he's keeping himself alone. It's just like, I feel a little bit better about it now. He needs to help out this village because they sent this dude who's dead on a horse, and he's like, okay, they're like 20 miles out. I guess I'll help him. Then we get Saint Germain. I was about to say Saint Bernard. Saint Germain comes in. Turns out he has to bring back Dracula in order to get to the woman that he loves at the end, which I thought was super weird. She never spoke during any of the flashback stuff, but I guess we don't see her because he dies at the end. So there's that. I guess that's why she didn't speak. I just thought the whole thing, it was him saying stuff during that little montage. I'm like, she hasn't. This is weird that she doesn't say anything. But it's like, he fails in the end, so it's like, why waste the money? So I was like, it makes sense now. I was like, damn, it's weird she doesn't speak. Oh, you never see her because he's done for. He's dead. So I like how they did the season. I thought it was really good as usual. Action is great, animation is great, and I think, of course, season 3 being what it was, I knew it was the build up season. We got all of that build up, and they paid it off in spades. Isaac did his thing. He was building up his armies and stuff like that. We have Camilla doing her thing where she's really trying to spread her army. So it was oddly like the conflict of how they're playing it, where he has a singular focused goal, and she's kind of just like power hungry. It's like, she has a plan, but then it's just like, I want more and more. So he had like a singular focus of like, this is my army, this is my war. And she was like, this is my army, and then this is my war. It's the whole planet. So he kind of went in, and it was amazing. I loved that whole sequence. I couldn't believe he lived, even though I know she was taking a bunch of hits. It was basically like they did some video game boss stuff for sure in this season, like they always have. But this was literally like she had an actual boss arena, and it would be like you're going up the tower, and it's a cutscene that plays in between as you're like going up the levels of the tower, and it's like, look at her kill all your army and stuff. There's by the time you get to her, there's literally a pool of blood. It's like coming down the steps and everything, and I'm like, this is so video game. It's ridiculous, but it's amazing. It's just like you go in. Your horde has been there. I love the fact that we get to see the other guy. I never remember his name. That really sucks, especially with this being the last season. I can never remember that guy's name. But he ends up, we were shown that pretty much. I think the first scene of him is him like looking around, and then he puts one of the orbs in the crack in the wall, which is cool. They used that twice. It was like him doing it, and then we actually got to see it again with Saint Germain. And I was like, oh, that was kind of a cool way to do that because that's something we hadn't seen. But then it's like, oh, people that need to get where they're going, why don't we just do it where there's like, you have to put the work in to put it all the way down the path, but once you activate it, it's just a tunnel that shoots you straight down. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. They utilized that twice. I was gonna say in a heroic way, but they're all bad. They're all the bad guys, so I guess it wasn't used in a heroic way at all. So he puts it in. We see that in use, and it creates a great portal for Isaac. He goes through, even when it formed. That's how violent this show is. Even when it was just like all he needs is like a magic tunnel that leads him down a corridor throughout the castle. Even that had to be bloody. It wasn't like, oh, it expanded and then people got pushed back. Nope. It was like, oh, you a person, demon, it doesn't really matter. Don't stand here. And it goes through him like a laser beam. And it's just like, psh, and like bodies are just exploding as they're going through the hallway. And I was like, that was unnecessary, but they made it kill people. And I was like, cool. It's just more craziness. So that was an amazing fight sequence. I loved the fact that she kind of had a katana. Her sword, now that I actually think about it, it reminds me a little bit of the anime Blood Plus. It was a very unique katana where it literally was like a straight line and then it just dipped into a curve. And I always thought that was unique for the show, but her blade was a little bit like it. It was definitely close. I didn't think of that until just now, but it was cool. I was like, she's fighting with the blade, her spinning around with the dress, and then she like went like super vampire mode where her she had like bloodshot eyes, completely bloodshot, full red, and she was just slicing demons up left and right. And then Isaac comes in, and like I said, I can't believe he survived even one hit. I thought for sure, even after everything they did there, I still thought it was like, oh, he's doing okay, he's doing all right. But of course, he does end up surviving. There was a minute there where, especially when she started her conversation, I was like, oh snap, she's doing like the villain conversation thing. I thought she was about to like amp up and it was going to be really crazy, but it turns out she actually took herself out because she knew that she wouldn't succeed, and it was like, okay, and she kind of went on her own terms, which was kind of cool. But I still would have loved it to, like, especially her specifically. I'm like, I kind of would have been okay if she got like a straight up death, but that also fits her character where she's just that character you can kind of hate, where it's just like, like you know, anyone that's going against Dracula, like I know he's the bad guy, but it's like, that's Dracula though. You're like, ugh. Like nobody's as cool as him. So once you go against Dracula, I kind of hate you. So it was like, she could have died, and not gotten to go out on her own terms. But that was her character, and that was kind of cool. So I enjoyed that. We had, oh man, R.I.P. to the creator of Berserk. That was like yesterday when I found out this information. But that leads me to like one of the coolest scenes where I wasn't the only person. I never really watched Berserk, but you know, it's Berserk, you know it. And so they had the scene, once again, suck with the names, but the tallest of the vampires, she's like, okay, the humans are attacking us in the day, which we clearly see in a couple minutes after that conversation. Huge mistake. The faces on these men where they're just like, and like the fear, it was so messed up. But she's like, honey, please get in the coffin. Boom, I got my armor. She looks so cool. Like it was just super cool. I thought she was gonna have birds on both wings as well, which I thought was really interesting. That in a regular outfit, I think the bird was on the right, and then she picked up the armor, and I was like, oh, so it's gonna have like a hole where the other crow fits in. And then she went out, and it was just on the left side. I was like, that's so funny to me. I don't know why, but I was like, she took off the bird to put it away, because that bird was there when she pulled it up. It was clearly like built into the armor, and that's why I thought it was extra funny. I was like, that's so weird that they specifically did that, where it's like non-battle mode is over here, battle mode is on the other side, or vice versa. But that was an amazing scene. She has like, you know, the gold glass to shield her from the sun, and it was a Berserk moment. Like she had the all black armor, she had the crazy armor, she had the cool blade, and she just was destroying those people. It was so messed up. I was like, this is a really great scene, but I was like, wow, like she's doing like the hero type stuff where it's like, oh, this is what happens in that epic anime hero moment where they're just whooping through the bad guys. Except she was just murdering innocent people. I don't know why. I mean, they tried. They try all the time in this show, and it's just like, man, you know, modern day, they'd be trying with guns. You got grenades and rockets, and it's like every time they're trying, it's like, dude, you got pitchforks and fire. Like at some point, you just have to think we're dealing with super strength, and you're like, you know what? We'll just use our everyday tools. Like I know, you know, it's old school days, and even Cypher was like, you can't put your latrine this close to where you're eating, like you get sick. I understand that the people are idiots, but every time, like nobody was just like, maybe we just shouldn't, and like, you know, batter down the hatches or whatever that phrase is. And it's just like, yeah, defend the village, but they went out on the attack, and like I said, we saw the faces. I mean, she's flying through these people. And it was just like, it was that really loose animation that I like, when it's just like, oh, now you know somebody's getting messed up. Like you're either flying through people or you're being sent flying like 1,000 miles, and it's just like you can barely see anything on the screen. And she just destroyed them, just was slicing through bodies, and just like she was doing all sorts of crazy anime spins and just flips. It was just like boom, and she's flipping around, and it was chaotic. I loved it. I absolutely loved that scene. And they end up living because, of course, you know, they see Camilla die, and giant explosion that I didn't expect. So they take off. Camilla's dead, and the other, like, we'll just go with like the pretty manipulative one. I didn't expect that. I thought for sure Isaac was just gonna end up killing her, and then the other dude, he was expecting to die, and it was like Isaac's like, man, he had his moment, and then it's just like, let's just live. I just want to relax. He's had his time. Let's just do us. It's like, I forgive you. And then it's like, Camilla though, I'm gonna kill her, but we're all good. And then of course he leaves the pretty one because the dude asked for it. I was like, okay. And then she killed herself, and she went to see the sun. I liked her ending as well, especially because she's like, they flipped it on the whole seeing the sun thing. And I thought that was really funny because typically it's always like, wow, it's beautiful and that warmth. That's how every vampire thing goes. And she's just like, oh, that's it. Like, you're so silly. And then she fades away, and I was like, that was kind of cool. I like that twist. I think that's literally the first time I've ever seen that. I'm sure it's not the first time it's been done, but the couple of things you see on TV or in the movies, it's always like, oh, the sun. Which I thought it was weird that she'd never seen the sun. Like, she specifically says like, I've never seen the sun. Like, when he said that, she didn't say like, it wasn't like see the sun for one last time or feel that warmth again, which I forgot. I guess she was just born. I don't remember her backstory, but I'm like, that's weird. Like, she had to have, like, unless she was turned that young and I just forgot. Which will kind of explain things that, that's why she's the youngest of them. But I guess I forgot that part because I was like, oh, she's never seen the sun? That seems really weird. That doesn't make much sense. But she's dead. The guys go on and do their thing. They just assume Dracula's gone, which we find out is not the case, which is an interesting ending. But, man, when they team up again, they go through that portal, and then we got Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha again. That was so cool at the end. It was some of the best. I don't know what my favorite action moment is. I'm going to have to watch, like, every season finale now to be like, which one was the craziest? But that season 3 finale, him dual whipping, was so insane to me, and it was just such a cool scene. I don't know, there's so much to like. The teamwork scene where it's like Trevor was the last one and he gets the crossblade, which I thought was super cool, especially in this. I don't know if they've ever redone it where that's actually accurate to anything in the game. I thought it was just a reference to the very first Castlevania. You have like the whip, even in Smash Brothers. So if you played Smash Brothers, it just looks like a pointy cross that he's throwing, or just like a pointy X. And so in this, I was like, oh, that's super cool. Like, it's 4 blades, but then it can actually go between. It can go from 2 to 3 to 4. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like how that works. And of course, Trevor being so freaking amazing, he can just use all these weapons, and he's just throwing this thing around like it was nothing. So that was super cool. But they come through, and it was just great. They have like the opening scene where they beat like the giant explosive demon that was wiping people out. It was just chaos. It was the best form of chaos. They took that demon out, and then they all look at each other without a word, boom, and they all split up to go, save the random people throughout the castle. And that was super cool. Like, everyone got their own little fight scene, and then they teamed up again when they were going up the tower doing the classic. So I thought it was great. And then of course they get to like the boss fight mode, and then they're kind of getting beat up and stuff like that. And then Trevor throws the blade. He set Sypha free. She got free, and then she sets Alucard free, and it was like, the teamwork on this is so good. Like, it was just like, all right, boom. I threw that because I knew you dodge it, of course. Why take a hit? Freedom. Everybody's alive, kicking butt, decapitating people, and then they have to take on like the final boss, or the final sub boss, I guess. And that was super cool too, and it was doing like the full rotation through the whole fight. A little hard for me to follow, even sober. And I was just like, okay, I'm trying it because it's rotating behind them, and all 3 of them are so well animated. I'm like, oh, I want to see what he's doing. I want to see what she's doing. And then the boss is in the middle. Even in the middle, I was just like, okay, he's doing a bunch of stuff because he's blocking 3 people at one time. They're doing magic, and the sword's flying around with Alucard and the shield, which was really cool to see him utilize the shield. I once again forgot he had a wolf mode. I don't think I knew that even in the last season, and then in season 2, I don't think I knew that. And this, I just forgot. I was like, oh yeah, and we also got to see him use wings, which I swear we've never seen that. I'm pretty sure that's the first time, but I also forgot about the wolf. I remember seeing it once he did it, but I don't ever remember seeing him use actual wings. And I also don't think we've actually seen him do the whole bat thing, which I thought was really cool. He utilizes that quite a few times, but I also don't think we actually saw him do that back in season 2. We may have, and it was like one moment, and it just completely slipped from my mind because they were fighting Dracula, so there's a lot there. But that would shock me. I was like, oh, he used that a couple of times, or the bat thing, and then the wings. Like I said, I swear we never saw that one time with him. I was like, did we see that before? I don't remember that, but added to the action, so I don't really care. But the teamwork scene was great. And then of course we find out that there's one vampire who's just like, don't they know who I am? He's the cocky guy. He's death, whatever. Like they reference it twice, which I thought was funny because they said in the beginning and at the end, it's like he's not like death, a Grim Reaper. Is like he's like an entity that absorbs on whatever is left behind. So like he's death, but he's like not really death. And I thought that was interesting that they kind of touched on that. But that was super cool. I didn't see that one coming. The whole thing. Once again, it's like, why is everybody trying to get Dracula back? What is happening? Seems like they're super close. Saint Germain, he's gonna do whatever he can to get back to the woman he loves. And then it's like, oh, you've been tricked this whole time. And then the demon comes out, or I guess he reveals himself to not just be a vampire, but to be like, a god. And so that was great. The design was so good in that, and I really enjoyed it. Once again, not super familiar, like, at all with Castlevania. I'm pretty sure I may have seen that at some point through the years of seeing Castlevania because it's so popular and famous, but I didn't remember it. So the design, it looked fantastic. I thought it looked super cool. And then it was just, he just hated human. He didn't give a crap. And I didn't expect him to keep swearing and stuff. And then he dropped an F-bomb and I was like, oh, I thought that, typically when people like shed their human form, then they go into like God status and everything's like soliloquies and like these giant words. And he was just dropping F-bombs. I was like, oh no, that's how he really talks. I thought that was just like his thing. But, the body tiny part was fake. And then his voice, he was just like, F this, F that. Like he was just dropping F-bombs. I was like, oh, okay. He really, like, he's not in like God mode. He's just like, I hate you assholes, and I'm hungry, so put Dracula and his wife in one body. That of course was a great scene. They're going crazy. I'm like, what the F is about to happen? Is he gonna control Dracula? Then they kill Dracula technically a second time, which I guess in a sense they technically did in a weird way. They split the body in half, but that was a cool scene too. They break through the barrier. And Saint Germain, of course, is like, what have I done? Which he really waited to like the last second. Like he was already stunned. It was like, oh, your death, like that's really bad. And then it's like, or you can die here. And then he regretted it like right after. And it was like, okay, well, it was a little late for that, but why would he kill himself? Like he doesn't care about other people. And then it was like, oh, hold on a second, I care about me though. So of course he's like, make yourself useful. They do the classic spin and it splits the body open, explodes. They get a happy ending. I took it as their souls, since they were technically being brought into one body together, their souls were still separated, and that was kind of the whole point, was that Dracula, being like the stronger being, I guess, would technically take over the body, but her soul would just be trapped inside of them. And since their souls didn't merge yet, they didn't get to the point of being in the body as two souls merged into one, he split it, and so their souls were just freed because the portal back was already closed, if I'm not mistaken. And even if it wasn't, it's just like, okay, their souls are out. They don't really have control. They just, do the classic thing. They just burst forward. So that's how I took it. I'm like, okay, their souls were brought out, and technically that was their physical form as well, being brought into the world. And it was just poof, they woke up. They were all nude and stuff. Stole some clothes. Really sweet look for Dracula at the end. I was like, that black and the gray light. I was like, that looks pretty sick. I like that. So they get a happy ending. I was fine with it. I thought it made sense because of the whole being brought back thing. Because if they weren't thrown into that body, it just would have been their bodies, and that's it. So it's like once they split the like shell body, it made sense to me. It was like their souls went out, but that was also like their physical form. It was kind of the exact same thing. So that's how I took it. Would love to know your thoughts on that and whether or not you thought that really made any sense. But epic fight scene. Trevor, once again, animation, chaos. Just, it was so sick. And then it was like, oh, there's that thing he was talking about, like, oh, that's why they split it up. And he was just like, boom. I was waiting for him to like do a bunch of stuff. Like he never actually used that dagger like I thought he was going to, because like he put the thing on and I was like, oh, that's like one of his new weapons. But it was a build up to like just the end. I thought he was gonna do it when he had like the very first gem, and it would be like, oh, that's kind of like a slight power up, and then he'd find like the other pieces, and then we only see that at the very end, because he would know that it was way too much power to do like all three at once. But that was still great. Like he was going through, his arms messed up and stuff, and it seems like the end. And then, he leans into it, and then he dodges, and then he's just, like, whipping him in the face, and then he somehow gained the ability to know exactly where to run when he blew up, like, the entire ground. He ran behind him on, like, just video game stuff. It's the debris spinning around in the tornado, and you hop on it, and he managed to hop on each one. So he got to the back. He did the super epic boss move where you do, like, the final blow to the villain, and he hits him with the dagger, stabs him in the face, very anime style. And, of course, we see, like, a slight hint. Saint Germain kind of hits the ring, or he hits the key or whatever. And it was like, okay, something's going to happen. I assumed that he would still die. I thought that he was going to teleport them both away and because of the explosion thing, and I was like, okay, well, we saw Camilla blow up and how powerful she was. Like, if he kills like basically God, the explosion would like wipe out, it could wipe out an entire country. That's what I was thinking in my head. I was like, okay, technically they're gonna both go away. Kind of a Cell sort of situation where he was gonna kill himself. Goku was like, oh, I can't do that. So that's what was running through my head. But turns out he just saved Trevor. They didn't really explain the whole time thing because the portal opened up and it was like, well, it had been 2 weeks, so I don't know if the place was just super far away, and I'm assuming that's what it was because they never really like jumped through time in that. They seem to only jump through worlds. So I was like, was he like I had to think about it for a minute. I was like, was he sent into the future 2 weeks or what just happened? So I'm just assuming the place he woke up was just super far away, because otherwise it was like, well, I know it's like between space and time, but they didn't actually show that you could time travel with that. So, and that would have been weird. He was just thrown through time, but only like 2 weeks. So I was like, I think he was just far away. That's how I took it. I didn't recognize, the locations and all the places, but I was like, I think he was just 2 weeks away. So that's how I took it. Could be wrong, and it was just dumb and made no sense because they don't really do the time travel thing, and it was just a random fluke that he happened. Like I said, he just, the first time ever really do it, and then the first time is like, oh, 2 weeks, no big deal. I don't think that's what happened, but could be wrong. Would love to know your thoughts on that as well. But everyone gets a nice happy ending. Alucard gets to date this attractive woman who just destroys some demons with a hammer and a sword. That was super cool. Sypha and Trevor have a child, or they're gonna have a child, which I would assume would be Simon. I don't know the actual lineage, but those are the only two people I know. And if Trevor's first, then Simon. I'm pretty sure. Well, because I think the third game is technically a prequel. I don't really remember. I don't know everything. But either way, they're having a child. Get some happy endings. Dracula, his wife, and it's just like, all right, that was cool. And the guys just live life and do whatever they want. I thought it was a great ending. I like what they did with it as far as the story. I was fine with, the happy endings. The Dracula stuff was the only thing that seemed to come out of nowhere. Like, oh, didn't see that one coming. But I was totally fine with that. So I thought that was cool. The action, of course, was amazing. The animation for the action was amazing. Sypha is just, like, so OP at times. Like, she summoned the lightning, and I was like, she can just do lightning balls behind her. Didn't know she could do that. Didn't know she had lightning till the last season either, though. So season 3 was, like, that's why it was so hype at the end. But she was cool. Like, she either gets a couple wrong moves in, or is just like super mega OP mode. And there are a lot of times where, I'll be honest, I thought they were gonna pull like a random trick where she was gonna get stabbed or cut or something, and it was gonna actually seem dangerous. But not much. Like, she got knocked down and some scratches. But there are a lot of moments where I was like, oh, she's talking to somebody, they're distracting her. I just kept expecting a demon to like come on and get her in the last second, but it never happened. She was just like, nope, fire, fire, fire. When I need to, I'll throw in a little ice there. Like, she was literally a firebender, and then she was flying around like, Lord knows die. So she was just like flying on the fire, and then she did like the orbs like Naruto at the end with the lightning balls behind her, and I'm just like, they just be throwing stuff at her. Like, I wouldn't have been shocked if she busted out wind. I don't know if that's in the game, but I'm just like, just throw it in anyway. You might as well. Like, they kind of did that at one point, I think, too, where it's something with wind. But I'm just like, might as well. At this point, I honestly was a little surprised they didn't like add another element in this season that she could use, and we just don't see her do it a bunch. But it was like, it was still sweet. Like, she was combining stuff. She did like the ring with the ice because it was raining. I was like, that was a super cool scene. I think she did at one point combine her powers like as she was shooting them too. So it was just amazing. I would love just a bunch more fight scenes with her because it's just so crazy. But all of the action was really good. I like the drama. I guess I like the horror, which would really just be body horror at this point. But it was all good, getting to see the demon. Saint Germain backhanded the demon, was just like, shut up. That was really funny. Like, the dude was just like, you can't kill me. And he was right. And that guy still didn't kill him, because I thought they were definitely going to play up on that. Because, like, he walked in the thing and he dropped off whatever. And then they had that look where it's like, it's almost done. And it was like, I guess that don't matter because y'all both just get killed by random stuff. So I thought that was interesting because they brought it up like a second time. And then it was like, that don't matter. It's done. Death is coming here. None of that crap matters anymore. So I enjoyed the season. I heard that there might be some spinoffs, which I would love to see because that means just action. I would assume Dracula would be like the only real spinoff. I don't think Isaac and the other dude would be getting into like any big wars again. So I think it would have to be like purely a Dracula spinoff. But I'd love to see it. and we'll just have to see what happens. But I really enjoyed this final season. We'd love to know what you guys thought about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. We'd love to know your favorite parts about this season, least favorite parts about the series, least favorite parts, of course, which I think most people will probably say like the first half of season 3, which yeah, it was the build up to this, and it totally paid off. It was very well done. But we'd love to know your thoughts on all things Castlevania. Should I get into the Castlevania games? I'm thinking about it. Limited Run Games has like a whole collection, and it comes in like this really cool shadow box that lights up and plays music, and I'm in a hype mode. I'm like, dang, I kind of wish I bought that Castlevania record, but I was like, I don't really play it. It's okay. I have like a rock version of the music, but the regular versions, I just don't know. I'm in a hype mode. We'll see what happens. But I would love to know your thoughts on that, or the whole season, the whole series, even. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.